Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host Nathan P. Butler. This time, we take a look at something that we've been leading up to here for a while, and it's going to be something that makes up the first part of sort of a long-running series of episodes here for the show. We're dealing with The Clone Wars, and as we know, The Clone Wars has a feature-length movie that showed up actually in theaters to begin with, made up basically of 4 episodes that were originally meant to be just regular episodes of the show that then was put onto home video by itself. Then we've got some individual weird DVD releases followed by the seasons 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and a complete seasons 1 through 5 set. But now we have finally found out that Season 6, the so-called Lost Missions, will be showing up on Netflix in March of 2014, and as such, we can expect at some point they'll probably release that on DVD and Blu-ray also. But at this point, we're not going to be covering Season 6 because, let's face it, if it's not a home video release, it doesn't really count for this series. But expect us to be covering it on Republic Forces Radio Network, link down below, which will also be released through the upcoming Rebels Roundtable's feed as well. Rebels Roundtable you can find at this other address here. But we're starting our look at the Clone Wars, and the best place to start is at the beginning, or at least the beginning, not chronologically, but in release terms, and that is with the film. Now, as I said, we should note here at least first off that while this is a theatrical film released by itself on DVD as a film, and on Blu-ray as a film, of course, this was originally meant to be 4 episodes of the show. They decided to extend a little bit and then link together to make into a movie to launch this series. The first part of it, which is basically on Christophsis, is a segment that would have been entitled The New Padawan, which apparently, along with the other Christophsis episodes, were meant to eventually be flashback episodes. Episodes like, say, Cat and Mouse, where what we had was a regular series that was ongoing, and then, hey, here's an episode that takes place way before everything else that sets up some of the things happening with Christophsis. Then we had Castle of Deception, Castle of Doom, and Castle of Salvation, which are the parts that all tie into the adventures on Teth, and that was going to be this 3-episode arc, very much like the 3-episode arc we got with the Malevolence trilogy, for instance, or the Ryloth trilogy at the end of Season 1. Now, up to this point, Star Wars home video releases for the films have been things that took a long time to come out. It took 5 years from the release of A New Hope in theaters to finally get it on VHS. Granted, there were those 8mm, 16mm versions that we've talked about in the past, but on VHS, the main home media of the time, it took 5 years. It took 4 years to get The Empire Strikes Back from theaters onto VHS, and it took 3 years to get Return of the Jedi from theaters onto VHS. Then when The Phantom Menace came around, it took 1 year for VHS, 2 years for DVD, until finally we get to Attack of the Clones, and you're getting a release a few months later on DVD and VHS, compared to the film release all in 2002, and the same kind of thing happening with Revenge of the Sith in 2005. Now we have a film, The Clone Wars, released in August of 2008, and only 3 months later, in November of 2008, we get the home video release. And for many, it was not exactly a film they got excited about, because it wasn't a live-action Star Wars film. They weren't quite sure about this new Ahsoka character and whatnot, so they went with the bare-bones version on home video. That bare-bones version is this. This is The Clone Wars, the film, on DVD. This is the single-disc DVD release. Notice the packaging there has the poster art, kind of reflecting the light there, pardon me. Information there about the film on the back. Inside, no insert or anything, just the disc, and again, it's basically got an expanded version of the poster art there. Now, this version is widescreen. There is no full screen release of this film on DVD, which is kind of impressive. They went just with widescreen, which is a brand new thing for Star Wars productions. Even Revenge of the Sith got a full screen DVD release. There is only widescreen. It has an audio commentary to go with it. It has a trailer for the Clone Wars cartoon series. It's coming up at that point around the same time this is being released, I guess a month earlier. It's premiering on Cartoon Network and such. And it does have a digital copy included. You get a little slip that gives you the digital copy code. You put it in, you download the digital copy. No need for a disc or anything like that to have it on. It is all straight up downloaded. Very bare bones at the time. Those digital copy code slips, by the way, look something like this. I've already used the code, so whatever. Now, if you wanted to go a little bit more all out on this, you could do what a lot of DVDs of the time did, and that is buy sort of a deluxe edition or a special edition, not to be confused with the special editions of the Star Wars films that add things. This is more of a special edition in terms of content. you could buy this one. DVD 2-disc special edition with that lenticular cover, shows Anakin or Asajj Ventress, depending on which way you're turning it. Kind of cool that you can actually see that on the screen here. Similar back and everything. You take off the little slip cover. Underneath is the cover there just with Anakin. Similar cover to the inside on the back. You open it up. You've got your little digital copy slip this time around. And you've got a couple of different discs here. Now, Disc 1 is basically the same thing as the disc that you got in that single disc set, except it has a different label on it, and it's labeled as Disc 1. Disc 2, with Anakin there, this is the one that's got more new special features on it. In this case, the new special features include trailers. You got the 2 different trailers, the launch and dark trailers for the Clone Wars film. You also have a trailer for the Clone Wars video game, along with the one for the Clone Wars on Cartoon Network that was on Disc 1. On Disc 2, you also have Star Wars The Clone Wars, The Untold Stories, the voices of Star Wars The Clone Wars, a new score, which are all documentary type things. You have a gallery. You have a bunch of webisodes, 6 of them total. You have deleted scenes, including things like the Rancor pit scene, which I find kind of cool. Basically, you get a whole bunch of special features on this that you don't get on the other one because they're all on Disc 2. And in this case, Disc 2 is where you're going to find your digital copy. Instead of having to download it, you insert the code while the disc is in there, and it downloads it or transfers it straight off the disc rather than having to take the time to download from a website, which is kind of nice and speedy, but not something we really need. Now, this is also the first time we got a digital copy built into a Star Wars product. Up to this point, digital copies were kind of hard to come by because we didn't see a lot of digital releases of Star Wars materials, though the films themselves did wind up showing up eventually on places like iTunes. This time, though, they're included. Now, there is one thing that makes this an extremely important release in the development of Star Wars on home video. Star Wars on home video has always sort of been a system seller. For a lot of people, they were saying they would buy a DVD player once the Star Wars films were available. In fact, The Phantom Menace, probably the weakest of all 6 live-action Star Wars films up to this point, is the one that caused a lot of people to go out and buy DVD players for the first time. If not that, Attack of the Clones. But it still took a while for the original trilogy to finally be released on DVD in 2004. We've been clamoring up at this point about having the Star Wars films on Blu-ray. They're not coming for quite a while, still another 3 years after this release. But finally in 2008, we have the very first Star Wars official continuity, or supposed to fit into the canon, T-canon in this case, film being released on Blu-ray. So yeah, you could get the single disc DVD or dual disc DVD. The best way to watch it? The Clone Wars on Blu-ray. Again, that lenticular cover, you've got Asajj Ventress or you've got Anakin, depending on which way you turn it. Similar back to the other ones. You take it out. Similar cover there, just with Anakin, but oh so nice in the Blu-ray clamshell case here. Same kind of thing on the back. You pop it open. You've got your code again. And you do have 2 discs in here, but because Blu-ray has so much extra storage space, everything is actually on this disc here. Okay, so that's all the bonus features that you got with the audio commentary and that one trailer on disc 1 of the DVD. Plus, you've got all the bonus features of disc 2 of the 2-disc DVD. Plus, you've got a special visual commentary, which is really cool. It's got like a little thing playing down in the corner as you watch the film, so you can see bits and pieces about how it was made while it was going, not just as audio, but actually visual. And it's got a memory challenge game, that the hologram memory challenge, that basically lets you unlock a couple of other little clips, and it's just kind of a cool thing that can only be done because of the way that Blu-ray works, kind of as a flash type of game. But then you've got another disc, and that's just for the digital copy. It's a DVD disc as opposed to a Blu-ray disc, and it's just a digital copy so you can transfer it quickly instead of having to download, kind of like what you got with that digital copy being on disc 2 of the 2-disc DVD set, as opposed to disc 1 where you had, or the single disc where you had just disc 1 essentially, and you had to download the thing. Very cool to finally see it on Blu-ray, and if you haven't seen it on Blu-ray, this is the way to watch. It is absolutely gorgeous. So much better in presentation than anything you get on DVD, and we'll see the same thing happen with the series compared to the HD releases through Cartoon Network, iTunes, and the like. Now, before we wrap up this episode, I should note here there are some exclusive cover editions of these. I usually pick up the mainstream ones, so I don't have those to show you visually here, but there is a steelbook case version of the 2-disc DVD set that you could get at Best Buy, and there was also, actually if you look at the discs here, Notice they're all kind of breaking up the poster art and such. Yet the other one of the clone over here on the side, there's a cover that looks more like this, the Blu-ray label. There's a cover that looks more like that you could get if you bought the Blu-ray or the 2-disc DVD edition at Target. But for the most part, it's this lenticular cover edition here for the Blu-ray or for the 2-disc DVD that you're probably likely to see if you were to pick these up at this point in time, whether it's eBay, Amazon, or anywhere else. So Star Wars has finally reached Blu-ray. It's just not the films we were necessarily looking for on Blu-ray. But it has begun a new era in HD for Star Wars on home video. And that is a very good thing. With that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers.